Hello everyone, how are you? Gabs here, What's in the Glass, Friday episode. It's probably gonna be the first time I'm having the same t-shirts than the picture that is over there, which is pretty funny, but you know, it's I'm trying to support friends and welcome everyone. Today's Friday and this is the digital beer stream in What's in the Glass. Digital beer stream is a way to fight the burden of the lockdown and keep together the beer community, and it's happened Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, and there are 4 different main topics. Sometimes we're going to speak about beer education, sometimes we're speaking about the bottle shop interview, sometimes we have a conversation with the industry legends, and with industry legends sometimes we're also doing single beer style focus. And this is the week that has been sponsored by Mother Kelly's, which is a well-respected entity within the London beer scene. They've been around from many years. They have various venues in North, East and South London. So these guys support me, and for the week they were on Wednesday, so you're gonna find very soon the Wednesday show. And then you going to see what I'm gonna drink today. As I said, Mother Kelly's week and Pilsner week. So for the Pilsner week, we're having Shanadega. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing well. Lager Pilsner. It's a 4.6%. Guys are from Manchester, and apparently is one of the best brewery in the country. That's in many people's opinion. So I just want to stay with you today, and first of all, I want to say thank you to all the social media people around the beer industry in the globe, in the UK, in Italy, everywhere. So thank you very much, guys. You let us know what's happening in beer and what kind of beers are worth trying, what's going on into the the breweries, and you let everyone know. So, and you also have me, because otherwise I wouldn't be here and speak about that. And today we have a good friend of mine as a guest. We worked together, we met in some beer tastings. It's probably the coolest boy out there, super funny, and is a real quality, beer quality obsessed person. He knows how to make sure your lines are super clean. He knows how to engage with customers. He knows so many things about beer in general. And as I said, it's probably the best person I can spend time with when I'm out to have a drink somewhere. So everything should be prepared. I saw him online as well already. So I just want to remember as well to everyone that the stream is gonna last 30 minutes, and in these 30 minutes we try to give you as much we know about the beautiful word of Pilsners, which in many people's idea Pilsners aren't exactly the most interesting of the style out there. We're here to make you think a different way about lagers. So just give me 1 second. Pilsner. Just give me 1 second. Should come over. I hope he's going not to dress some kind of fancy hat, but I don't know. Could be that maybe. Let's see. Yes,
Hey,
Dave. How you doing?
pretty good, man. I mean, that was one hell of an intro. I feel like I've got a lot to live up to now.
Oh no, no pressure, dude. No pressure. I like your t-shirt.
Oh, well, yeah, I had to represent today. It was going to be my craft beer cares one, but that desperately needed a wash, so.
Well, you can't be every day, the craft beer cares t-shirt as I normally do. You saw today I've got one t-shirt that I'm really, how can I say, attached with. And I also see that this boy drinking the proper glass.
I mean, yeah, I think first thing I should say is Nazdravi. Of course.
Just give me 1 second. Let me open it. So
Sorry, yeah, I started without you.
It's alright. I'm a big chatter. So beer o'clock somewhere always.
I mean, yeah, I was going to tell you like what I was drinking, and I know it's Pilsner week, so I really should have got a Pilsner. But if we're talking, lagers, it was only going to be one, wasn't it?
I knew it.
What else?
No, man, it makes sense. But yeah, good point. Why are you drinking that? And Why, if I see you around and that beer is available, you may gonna drink that? What's going on with that beer? Cheers.
To be honest, a lot of it is probably to do with nostalgia. I used to live in Bavaria for about a year and a half, and that's pretty much where the love of beer just really like came on. Because as soon as I came back from that and went back to drinking the stuff I usually drank, it was just like I can't do this anymore.
I know.
And this was probably the first beer that I drank while I was out there that I saw in the UK. So as soon as I saw that that was here, it's just get it anywhere I can, and it's pretty much followed me to every pub I've worked in,
Yeah.
or every local.
That means you work in very good pubs. So let me say that. And
Also some of my locals where I just keep nagging them to get it in for me, but you know, it's I think I think unanimously most people will agree it's one of the best lagers you're ever going to find out there. So.
Apparently is the lager in then the brewers drink when they want to feel like they drink it something that they never going to replicate in their brewery. So it's
I remember seeing there was a guy I knew who was a home brewer, and I don't know how true this story is, and I really hope it is, that he basically apparently he reached out to them to say like if he could give them any help because he wanted to replicate it at home.
Oh wow.
And they basically said that anyone who signs up to work for them isn't allowed to give away anything to do with the beers. Like, that is just the most German thing I've ever heard when it comes to their beers.
It's pretty German, yeah, you're right. And Sean, I remember then you've been one of the few people when we met to recommend me a beer that actually wasn't a juicy IPA. And
oh, was this in the Mermaid?
yeah, and it was 2018. I mean, it wasn't very very far ago. And that style was.
Well, that was probably the first time we'd met when where one of us wasn't behind the bar.
Correct.
Because usually it was you behind at Kelly's or me at anywhere that you were.
Yeah, I remember that, and I also remember that you said to me, you had to get that beer.
It was that Schlenkerla Doppelbock, wasn't it?
That was the one.
You told me you'd never tried anything from Schlenkerla before.
Nope.
And I mean, I think I remember trying to describe it to you, and I was like, mate, there's nothing I can say. Just there's no description for this style. For this brewery,
and it's not the Marzen, it's like as a
completely different.
Yeah, I actually had something in my fridge which couldn't be on style, and probably I'm gonna have later with some cheese, which is the Gangsta Labrau, the Imperial. I think it's the smoky lager, which is an interesting one. It's an Imperial Indian Pale Lager, but smoked. Well, anyway, Chan, you told me, and your T-shirt prove it, that you've been in Czech Republic and you did some studies with Pilsner Urquell, right?
Yeah. So when I started Draft House was actually my first proper sort of venture into craft beer. That was about 4 years ago now, and I kind of came in thinking, oh yeah, I know a bit about beer and this, that, and the other. And I had a look at our fridges and didn't recognize a single thing that was in there. I was like, okay, I've got a lot of work to do. But one of the things we had in that draft house is we had tank Pilsner Urquell. So basically, rather than kegs, we were serving it directly from the tank. It would get delivered straight from the brewery. They would clean the tanks, fill them. And I didn't really know what the big difference was. It looked like it was taking up a lot of space.
Yeah.
And I think Pilsner Urquell is one of those breweries who, we see them all the time in sort of most pubs or a lot of supermarkets, and they think, nothing wrong with them, solid brand, nothing special.
Mm-hmm.
And then I tried a tank Pilsner for the very first time that had just been freshly delivered. I was like, how is this the same product? Like, this can't be, it's not. And it is just the difference that kind of goes into when they can really show off what the product is versus what they get to you. Because I guess to some scale, obviously, when you're having to mass produce, there's certain things you have to scale back on. And this was them saying, we're more than that. We are capable of more. And for them to really implement that, they need people on the other side who know exactly how to handle it. So we had a guy working with us called Jan, who was kind of like the face of Pilsner Urquell. And as you can imagine from a Czech person working in beer, very tall, voluptuous beard, about 20% face, 80% beard, just, that sort of a man.
Yeah.
And he was teaching us how to pour it. And, at this point, we're all thinking, mate, we've all poured pints before. We all know what we're doing. And we had one go on those taps, and it was just like, what the hell is this? This is completely different. So they were offering basically a Tapmaster training program for a few of us to go on. And the day I found out I was going on, it was the day after I just got back from a stag do in Dublin.
Oh, so, intense.
Yeah. Was not feeling so good. And then when my GM told me that I'd been selected for this, it's the best hangover cure I've ever had in my life. Yeah. But it was, once we were out there, I mean, we all thought it was going to be just a bit of a giant piss up. And yes, I'm not going to lie, there was a lot of drinking involved, of course. But it was crazy to see, especially having lived in like London and Germany and seeing how different the sort of beer cultures, the drinking culture is.
Yeah.
If anything, in Pilsen, they take it up to another level. And I never thought I'd see anyone take it up a notch from where I was living in Germany. But for anyone who doesn't know, like, Pilsen is essentially the heart and soul of where Pilsners began. It's where the name came from. And it all kind of started when they were only drinking the same stuff as anyone, like, top fermented, essentially like cask ales. And as we all know, after a few days, that stuff just doesn't last very long. So they were just, getting through some of it, chucking away the rest, starting again.
All about freshness.
Yeah. And it was only about, I think, 1842 was when the first Pilsner, like the golden lager, was brewed. And it revolutionized everything. Like that was probably the first craft beer movement.
Wow.
It was.
And it's like many people think that beer is the most popular drink out there. I always like to correct, especially people not from the UK, saying Pilsner is the most popular beer style out there because it's almost like 90% of what the entire world drinks.
So this is what they said when I was in Pilsen. So the numbers may have changed a little bit with how much other styles have come on, but they said something about like around, if you had to guess like how many sort of pints were drunk a year, I mean, we could be here all day guessing, but they said it was about 800 billion.
Wow.
I mean, again, I don't know who the hell's figuring this out because we're not counting the stuff that people are drinking at home and all that stuff, but hey. And about at least 2/3 of that is lager and pilsners.
Wow.
Well, probably predominantly pilsners. So it's, as much as we kind of think, there's other things going on, it's still the most popular style in the world, and for good reason.
Definitely.
It's done amazing things. It made people have to start giving a fuck about what they were putting into beer.
Yeah. And we're talking about countries like Brazil, talking about a country like China, India, and Italy. The two most famous beer out from there are actually, Pilsners or European premium lagers, if you want to call it that way. And it's insane. It's insane.
Yeah.
And well, is it harder to brew a Pilsner than an ale, for example?
I think it's not. Again, I'm not a brewer, so I can't comment on the exact specifics. But I feel like if you want to be like a lager brewer, you have to specialize in it because it takes so much time. And I think the reason a lot of UK breweries don't do it is because the way the demand for, especially for beer over here, is now, it's more, okay, I've tried this from you and it's great, but what else have you got for me?
Right.
you know, people are just never quite satisfied. Obviously, there's a lot of breweries who have a great core range that, you know, I order a lot of, you know, the core range I order, I get it in every week, but every so often you're like, well, what else you got? What else you got?
Yeah.
And if you're committing to making a Pilsner or any lager, you
Mm-hmm.
have to commit to the lagering process because that's where the name comes from. It's the time you give it after the fermentation to just, you know, let it chill out, remove any sort of lactic acid that may have built up, just let it do its thing. And I know there's some places that will spend months doing that.
Yeah.
And over here, we just don't have the capacity to do that.
I remember the story about when Beaver was released from Beavertown. Internally, they were saying things like, we had to spend a year to make sure that the lager and the pilsner that we made was actually what we had in mind. So it's not just like a beer style you can brew and you brew
Well,
that.
it was, I think it was a, what was it, a good old friend of ours who has probably the best lager or Pilsner analogy that I think I've ever heard, and one that appeals to both of us, like me as someone who likes their food and you as an Italian, which is a Palfrin, or, you know, who we
Yeah,
worked with for a while,
I
but
remember that.
said every sort of beer chat I heard him do, and I knew he wasn't a fan of them, always said brewing a lager is almost like eating, you know, committing the cardinal sin of eating spaghetti with a white shirt. If you mess up once, there is nowhere to hide. And it's spot on because as well as the lagering process, you know, most off flavors in beer come from byproducts in yeast.
Yeah,
If you're leaving the yeast in there for longer,
yeah,
you're giving your beer more chance to get, you know, to be susceptible to off flavors, and you're not pumping the fuck out of it with hops to hide those.
yeah. Well, and you mentioned the fact that there are you know, some places around the world where you know, that kind of style is almost religious in a way. It's like it's part of the culture and everything. Is that means that we can't find any good pilsners in the UK apart from imported beer?
No, of course not. I don't think that's the case at all. I think there's some,
This is decent.
you know, yeah, I mean, the standout is always, I think everyone, most people who've done this job for a while, will, when they say like best UK Pilsner,
Mm-hmm.
everyone goes towards Lost and Grounded. I think, you know, you were drinking their, was it Running with Scepters the other day? Cracking beer that. The Keller Pils, one of the best Pilsners you're going to find. And I think we did a blind tasting once when we worked together.
Yep.
And that Lost and Grounded came second only to Augustina. So there you go. Tells you everything you need to know about it. And yeah, there's plenty of people who do a good one out there. I just said, you know, Lost and Grounded did one. Even, who was it? Like some guys I knew at Signature, when they did a Vienna lager, which is a style of lager that I'm a huge fan of. Their Studio Vienna, great beer. So there's plenty out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think the hardest thing with lager though is just the consistency.
100%.
Yeah, and the guys, you know, the people, the sort of pioneers of this have been doing this for centuries. It's all they do. They don't have to worry about, you know, getting all these hops in for their new DDH pale alongside their lager. It's just lager, lager, lager. Here you go.
Yes. And you know, again, I almost think somehow then with craft beer, we managed to, you know, destroy many misconceptions.
Sorry, I'm getting another bottle. Don't mind me.
Oh, please, 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 fill up it. And we saying all the time, and you know, with craft beer, we managed to kill many misconceptions within the beer industry, and definitely craft pilsners made by craft brewery help a lot. You know, the misconception that we have about pilsner just as a mass produced beer, and you know, I almost see a bit of snobism into craft beer, like,
Oh, completely.
I'm not having a pilsner, I'm gonna have something more complex than that. How many times you heard that?
The thing, I think the problem is there's almost two scales of it, and I think it's kind of people, it's this huge, this both extremes fighting against each other, because on one side you get the people who kind of say, oh, they don't know, they're a bit almost like refusing to kind of even explore the option of craft beer. They just think it's some poncy shite that they shouldn't, that's just ruining their pint. So a lot of times we've all heard it, because someone's saying, oh, can I just get a pint of like whatever your standard lager is?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people who kind of just get so sick of that they kind of almost act against it and say, well, if that's what they think, I'm just, boycotting that style, full stop. So if they go out and they'll see, and I've had it where I've been drinking a lager and, it might not be an Augustina, but it's still a banging lager. And they'll say, oh, what the hell are you, and I was like, oh, what are you getting? I'll get your next drink. And I was like, oh, I'm just drinking that Pils there. And it's like, what? I thought you liked beer. I was like, yeah.
That's
I'm drinking a Pilsner. And I think, people love getting very, judgmental about it. Maybe because there's not about 12 sentences to write about it on Untapped, or, there's not 7 paragraphs of it on Rate Beer, or whatever you want to call it. It's, the beer, like, was it, Ben said it yesterday, it's a social lubricant. And lager's probably the best for that because, you get the big flavour that you want at the start. But it's unbelievably moreish, which is why this pint's probably not going to last me very long either.
No, I'm sure it's not going to. Well,
and I think the thing is that there is this huge stigma about it, where I think, as styles have developed, and there's been a load of styles that have, but in the same way that Pilsners came on as an alternative to those sort of top fermented cask ales, while that style may have grown and overtaken it, we haven't left that style behind. Top fermented ales, cask ales, are still hugely popular today. I love them. A lot of people love them. They're an amazing style of beer that shouldn't be forgotten about. And in the same way that we're moving forward with all these other new styles, like, your DDH, pales, your sours, pastry stouts, whatever, we could be here all day listing them. We shouldn't be drinking, we shouldn't forget about the Pils, something like the Pilsner, where that was the original movement.
Correct. And I can tell by a fact then the reason, because people in countries where normally grapes have, bigger stage than hops, the main reason, because people in these days are having beers on a daily basis, not bigger quantity, not like in here, but still, a bit of it. It's mostly because good Pilsners came out from good breweries, and people realize, maybe I'm going to spend a bit more, but hey, this is the best beer I can have with my food. And Pilsner really made that.
No, for sure. I mean, as well, it's funny that you mentioned the sort of like the beer and food thing, because I guess when it comes to sort of beer and food pairings, lagers, when most people think of like lager with food, they're probably thinking of like a curry or something along those lines. But one of the most interesting things when I was in Pilsen was, they had essentially what was known as like a different style of pour for a different occasion. So something like the beer style that was kind of most common in, was a Ladinka, which is almost like 50-50 like beer and foam, which obviously is going to shock anyone if you poured that for them here.
Yep.
But the idea behind it is, one, the foam is, it's acting as a protector from oxygen, because we both know, beer and oxygen are not friends. And it protects it. It's not as carbonated, so it's just, you're not getting that bloated feeling. So it's just much more sessionable, and that's their sort of, if they're getting one of those, it means we're going to keep coming, and keep coming. Whereas if they get what's kind of called, there's other styles where the beer might be a bit more like what we're used to seeing with about, like 2 fingers of foam, where it's a lot more crisp.
That's it.
And that's the sort of, that's what they'll have with food, because Czech food has been very rich, very meaty, lot of carbs. They need something to sort of cut through all that, and that's the pour that they'll have if they're eating. So they don't have to switch to a different style. They can keep exactly the same beer, but all it takes is the person behind the bar knowing what to do. And that was probably the hardest thing working out there, because
I'm sure.
Rather than people coming up to the bar, it's all table service. So you'll get a ticket through saying, well, I need X amount of these, X amount of these, and X amount of these. And it's not a case of like, if you ask me, Chan, I want a Ladinka, I can just pour it for you like, there you go, mate, no problem. You have to pour it so by the time it reaches the table, it's perfect. And these people who've been working there for years, if they come up to your bar to take a tray of beers and it's not perfect, they'll go full Gordon Ramsay on you and be like, I'm not fucking taking this. Do it again. It's not a case of top it up, it's do it again.
Do it again.
God.
Yeah. When we went together in Soho in the the tank bar.
Duck and rice.
Oh man, I told you I never seen anything like that. And
yeah,
it's
that was the first time you tried Tank Pilsner, wasn't it?
Correct.
And yeah, like you can tell me for yourself, like it's a completely different ball game.
There is someone in North London that actually did that trick for me when I went to visit the Bohem tap room.
I was glad you mentioned them actually, but yeah, carry on.
Yeah, and I mentioned the guys that my previous experience with that beer, with that style beers, was with you in central London in that specific bar, and they were like, we're glad that you're saying that, because that means that I can straight away give you another go with the same thing without explaining you all. But then I went for the full story anyway, just because I like to hear, and it's brilliant. It's fantastic.
Well, I think the thing that was Bohem were actually one of the guys who kind of, thinking like, having the sort of that status, that Pilsner sort of certification was a huge honor, and like I absolutely loved all the time I spent with them, everything they've done for me. And then when I left Draft House and ended up going to the Axe, absolutely loved it there. But I thought, wondering how is this kind of going to help me here with that sort of, having that. And it was only when they came along, this is when they just started, and says, oh, we're opening a new tap room. And I was working with Matt and Moritz at this point, who, two guys who need absolutely no introduction as absolute legends in the game. And when they said, oh yeah, we're a London brewery specializing in Czech style Pilsners, they both just said, Jan, just go.
Yes.
And it was probably like the first time since I left Draft House, I was like, yay, I'm relevant again.
Well, again, the first person that I had in my mind, and in the meantime, my mum said hi. Hi, Mum.
Hi, Mrs. Gabs.
and it's funny because the first person that I had in mind when I was thinking just a specific thematic focus on a style, and it was Pilsner. I straight away, man, I didn't have anyone. Mark was on Tuesday, and he wrote a book about lagers. It's specifically a Friday event.
That was where we met.
Oh, really?
I met him when I was in Pilsen.
Oh, wow.
I had no idea who he was at this point. I mean, I've seen him like countless times since then. And it's really fun, like sharing that experience with people from like completely different backgrounds, because I don't think it does. I've taken my friends to those places, like a Tank Pilsner site, who have no experience in beer, compared to like someone like yourself who's got tons of experience in it, and the reaction is always the same.
Whoa, like this?
It's always the same, and they've got my favorite saying that they've got the best saying that they've got in when it comes to like Pilsner and that their sort of how they look after it. And I was going to wear the t-shirt with it, but as soon as I put it on, I realized I probably consumed way too much beer since I first got it, because it was a little bit snug. And they always say the brewer brews the beer, the bar makes the beer. Because and it's just and this goes doesn't just go for Pilsner. It goes for any sort of beer, but more so with Pilsner because again there is nowhere to hide.
For sure.
There's all this effort into sort of breweries doing all these things to churn out the best possible beer, and not enough on well when it reaches your bar or your tap room or your restaurant or wherever you're pouring it, you've got to show the same respect, the love and respect that those brewers have put into making it, into pouring it. Because if someone take the Augustiner that I'm drinking now. If I had a keg of it, and you came in thinking Augustiner on draft, yes, I'll get a pint of that, and I give you like a glass that's not been washed properly, it's a little bit warm, the line's not been cleaned in a couple of weeks, and rather than pouring, I just leave it under there, hold it under, top it up when I feel like it, and then hand it to you. It'll still taste all right, I'm sure.
Someone will drink it.
Yeah, but it's not good. And I think that was the most important thing about it. It wasn't just the thing that kind of got me hooked on their like ethos. Wasn't just the amount of passion and work that went into it. It's the amount of time, passion, and work that goes into the other side of saying, well, these guys have given us a premium product. Here's how we're going to look after it, and we're not going to accept any shortcuts. I think Pilsners are the best thing for that because there's nowhere to hide. If a Pilsner's tasting good at a bar, it means they know what it means. They're looking after their stuff.
I mean, again, this is what I learned from you since the first time that we met, when you were behind the bar, probably, and you told me that, and I saw, the way that you were offering, talking about the products, and friends of yours or people that you just, admire or respect in the industry, especially if they were brewers, you were pushing, and this is what I remember as well, working behind the bar. It's good fun because, you are the first to try something that you will serve to everyone along the day. You're there to be the judge, try it, and then for the rest of the day, whatever electrified you, you'll be like, this is the beer they're going to serve for all the rest of the day. I'm going to finish the keg of it. It's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing as well. Like, and there was times where, like, I remember when, like, you come into the Axe, or sometimes, I come into K, and you'd walk up to the bar, and I wouldn't even, like, say anything. I'd just give you, like, a third or a schooner or something, and go, there you go.
That's the way.
And I mean, granted, when we worked together, you never trusted me with that because I would sometimes fuck with your beers a bit.
Well, that's a different thing because, I was coming in specific time of the day when you had to do some duties in the lines, and I was your victim.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Look, I promise to Mr. Instagram that I will keep these 30 minutes. We can keep going until, the next year, chatting about everything here. I know that. And we have this beautiful thing, which you've been like one of the biggest winner overall, which is the competition time.
Yeah, you owe me about 4 beers.
I know. and if anyone that were following this conversation can remind what beer Chan suggested me at the Mermaid during a special tasting, I'm just saying, let me say that it was a special German beer, has been brewing Bammen? Can't remember the name of the town, of the city. Where
Hamburg.
I can't remember where exactly the brewery is based. But
Bamberg.
That's the one. But it does have a special, it's a lager, but it does have some special characteristic in the flavor. Someone that normally have, like, I can't say that, but let's see if someone will guess it. And just the name of the brewery, not even the style, just the name of the brewery.
I mean, I did say we've made it. I did say we had to make it a bit harder because some of your last questions were way too easy.
Well, but you see, people just having a beer. It's Friday, this is the thing.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know there's obviously like no one wants to see no one wants to look at our faces for half an hour. Well, maybe yours, but not mine.
No, 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 no. Trust me, trust me. There are people in here like Daniele from Aura, like Chelsea, like probably Ben as well.
Yeah, I saw Leave a bit there earlier. So, see a few of
my
my friends
mom,
have
my
joined.
dad. I'm sure my dad know what I'm talking about, but you know, just in case. If you remember, if you want to try after, just send a message and chant. This is not for you. You can't do that.
Yeah, I
But
know. All right.
if someone else can do that later, just
Well, that's all
listen.
right. I think you're already giving me 4 beers. That's fine.
It's a liquid bacon type of beer.
Hmm.
So please, guys, just go for it. And Chan, what are you gonna do now?
We're gonna start making dinner.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah. What about you?
I think I need to finish. What's the name of the series about the man with the tigers?
Oh no, mate, you're
I
better than
had to.
that.
I really had to.
No,
I,
Gabs.
I know it's horrible. I know it's horrible, but I really have to do it. I really have to. Apparently,
Yeah.
the third episode is becoming like the best episode ever. So I really need to check
Oh
it.
God. Right.
Well, in the meantime, I will have my Gangsta Labrau Imperial Pale.
Also, I forgot to say it. I don't know if anyone's like how many people have said it on your things, but congratulations on your marriage. For anyone who doesn't know, like Gabs got married pretty much what just before the lockdown. Yeah.
It's okay. Did he went out? Oh, sorry. I just showed my wife, but Instagram didn't let me do it, so it's good.
Oh yeah, she's too hot for Instagram.
Yeah.
Sorry, Elena, you broke the internet.
Well, if someone remind what the name of the liquid bacon brewery is, that's the beer that they let us meet each other basically.
Yeah.
And Sean, have a great evening. Thank you very much for your presence.
And you, mate. Take care, man.
It's been good fun, and I can't wait to see you again and hug you very, very strong.
We'll recreate that picture from our work.
I need to share that to everyone. Ciao, man. Have a good one. Thank you.
Take care, man.
Ciao,
Bye.
ciao.